So what is this financial crisis that we're not talking enough about? You're probably thinking, Haskell, there's a whole list of them you could choose from. And you're right. And in fact, as I did my research for today's video, I came up with 4. And I actually want to talk about all 4, but at the end, I'll share which of these 4 I think is the most important. Okay, so let's go for a walk and let's talk about the first one. The first one's not going to surprise you. My channel is mostly about preparing for retirement. Been a financial advisor for 20 years. And so the first one I want to talk about is the current generation of retirees, and really Americans in general, are woefully unprepared for retirement. If you look at the current generation that's retiring, which is baby boomers, which are people that were born from 1946 to 1964. So the youngest boomers are actually turning 60 this year. So that generation is retiring in spades. And unfortunately, I'm in that generation as well, we are not prepared. 45% of all boomers say that they have nothing saved for retirement. And of the ones that do have savings for retirement, 28% have under $100,000. And if you look at the most accurate data, the most recent data we have, which is the Survey of Consumer Finance, which is hosted and put on by the Federal Reserve. They do this study every 3 years. They just released it 6 months ago as I record this. And if you look at the net worth, and net worth would include the value of your home. The net worth for 35 to 54-year-olds is $135,000. This is household net worth, not individual. For 45 to 54-year-olds, it's $250,000. And for people 55 to 64, it's $365,000. So you might be thinking, hey, $365,000 isn't bad, but remember, this is a household. And then it also includes the value of the home equity. So net worth is just simply the value of your assets minus all the debt that you may owe, your mortgage, your student loans, your car loans, things like that. So number one crisis that I think we're not talking enough about is we have a generation that is retiring now, and 45% of these folks have no retirement savings. And unfortunately, if you look at the homeless population, the fastest growing population of homeless right now are people 50 and older. So we're starting to see the impact of this. Okay, number two is health care for seniors. You know, and a lot of you might be thinking, hey, so what's the big deal with that? We've got Medicare. And we do have Medicare, and that's really an important safety net for us. And I'm grateful to have Medicare. However, it's important to note that outside of Medicare, once you turn 65, according to Fidelity, the average 65-year-old is looking at almost $160,000, $157,500 of expenses that they're going to have to pay out of pocket that are not covered by Medicare. So if you look at those net worth numbers for a household, and if you assume a lot of households have 2 people, you know, that net worth is really going to go to their health care. So that's crisis number 2 is, you know, what do we do to provide health care to stay healthy? And I think a lot of you would agree, you know, staying healthy is job number 1 for us. So it's really on us to do what we can to stay healthy, right? And we can only do so much. At some point, our genes kick in, but trying to eat healthy, trying to exercise, but that's a big crisis. And that $160,000 number, that does not include the cost of long-term care insurance, which 80% of us that reach the age of 65 are going to need, and long-term care expense can be quite high. So that's another thing, and that's why healthcare costs is my second crisis. Okay, let's keep going. I've got 2 more. The third one, as if all this good news wasn't enough, the third one is Social Security. Janet Yellen, who chairs the Social Security Trust Administration, says that the excess funds in Social Security are going to run out in 2034. Now, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean we won't get Social Security, But right now, the current taxes coming into the system only cover 70 to 80% of the payments that go out of the system. And so we're drawing down on money that had been put in the account earlier, the trust fund. And that trust fund is going to dry up in 2034, which is just 10 years away. Now, do I think we're going to come up with a solution? I think this is going to surprise you. Yes, I do think we're going to come up with a solution, but it's not going to be pretty getting there. And it's probably going to include some sacrifices for younger folks. I don't know. This is not a political channel. I don't want to say what my views are on this because it's irrelevant, right? It's our elected officials. That's their job to come up with it, and it's our job to elect the right folks and to share with them what we think. I will share that both Republicans and Democrats have floated a lot of ideas out there. Now, whether we can get both sides to agree on something is a different question. So that's the next one is Social Security. And then the fourth one is not going to surprise you. The fourth one is the U.S. national debt. The debt right now, the federal debt, this is just for the U.S. government. This is not local municipalities. This isn't states. The federal government deficit, I'm going to give you some statistics first. If you look at how much debt that we had to the size of the economy, what economists would call GDP, gross domestic product, if you look at how much debt we had divided by that, in the 1960s, it was 50%. So if, just to give numbers, if the U.S. economy back then was $10 trillion, that would be $5 trillion of debt. In the 1980s, it actually went down. It went down almost to 33%. It went down to 35%. So that was a good trend. That was 20 years of prosperity for America. And we were starting to pay down that debt. The economy was growing. I think it was likely both taking place, the economy growing and then also paying down or slowing down the rate more likely of the debt that we were taking in. By the 2000s, it had gone from 35% to 60%. And now, believe it or not, it's 120% of GDP. So it's now greater than what the size of our economy is. And when I went to business school, there were a lot of economists that said, boy, once a country hits 100%, it's really hard to pay that down. And let me share with you why that is. So right now, the U.S. federal deficit is $34.7 trillion. And so that's roughly $100,000 for every U.S. citizen. So again, $34.7 trillion, roughly $100,000 per citizen. Now, the average citizen in the United States makes $50,000 a year. I should say the median. The median citizen makes $50,000. This debt is $100,000. Let's say that we pay 5% interest on that debt. So that would be $5,000 a year just to pay the interest, not paying down the debt. So median American, the average American, let's just use that term, is making a little over $50,000 a year. So that would be 10% of the average American's salary just to pay the interest on that debt. So it's probably not going to surprise you. I told you at the end I was going to share with you which one I think is really the financial crisis that nobody's talking about. And it's not that we never talk about it, but I don't think we talk about it enough. And to me, that's the national debt. You know, these are all important topics, but everything kind of flows into the national debt, right? Medicare, I believe, was started in about 1965. So before then, we didn't have it. So that was a solution to a problem. But then, you know, it creates another issue, which is how do we pay for it? How do we pay down the debt? So that's the one that I think is the most important. But, you know, getting to the retirement, being prepared for retirement, if you're interested, I did a video that talks about what does the average American, what is the average retiree in America, what is their income? And that's this video here. So I hope you'll watch that one, and I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.